Welcome to the Love, Listen, Talk, Repeat podcast. I'm your host, Wendy Capewell. The topic of each episode is about relationships, the one with ourselves or the relationship with others. So let's get on with this week's episode. Right now, I've got Stella Maher with me, and she is a confidence coach for women. I'm going to hand you over to Stella so she can tell us more about what she does and why she does it. Hi, Stella. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. Yes, my name is Stella Maher. I am a confidence coach to women, a mindset trainer to young women. I'm also a speaker and the founder of the Lioness within coaching. I decided to focus on young women because of my own experiences as a young woman. Growing up in Nigeria, I was relentlessly picked on because of my appearance, and for being skinny, I was picked on and called all sorts of names by school bullies. So it made my time in school really difficult.
I can imagine it was, yeah.
Yes, and then it affected my confidence. It made me very insecure and very self-conscious about my whole appearance.
Wow.
And this followed me well into adulthood. It wasn't until I was well into my 30s that I had a real turning point that made me realize that I didn't have to believe all those nasty things that were said about me, and I didn't have to allow them to shape who I was. And so I started to believe that I could really achieve anything I wanted. There were a number of things that led to it. It started with setting up my own home business, which then exposed me to a lot of training. I went on a lot of courses. I listened to motivational speakers, and that's when I started to realize that I was enough. The sky was the limit if I believed in myself. And so I started to have faith in my abilities, because the funny thing about being made to feel horrible about your appearance is that it affects your whole person. It affects you mentally. You tend to think that because people think that you look ugly, that you're also not capable of doing anything else, that you're also stupid. You tend to think that. And so I had that turning point, and I realized I could do anything I wanted. And that's when I decided to be a coach. I decided I was going to help other people who felt as unhappy and as insecure as I used to feel to get to their full potential. And so I went and I qualified as a coach in January of 2018. And after I qualified, I had to decide on which niche to focus on. And that's when I decided to focus on young women, purely based on my experience as a young woman, because I can relate to them. I can feel their pain. I understand the issues that they're going to regarding body image. I mean, back in Nigeria, I was bullied for being skinny, but over here, young people are under a huge amount of pressure, to conform to this idealized image. And that's to do with being skinny, Young
yes,
girls
it's weird, isn't it?
To be skinny.
It's strange, the culture difference.
Yes, different cultures.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, and you're right. It's that idealized image that youngsters.
It's not even realistic.
Exposed to. Yeah,
and it's completely unattainable, because what they are basing their judgment on is not real. I mean, all these images of perfect-looking celebrities on social media and ad campaigns, a lot of them are touched up. They're not real.
Absolutely.
And it's sad and pathetic that young women are basing their judgment on things like this. And there's a lot of body shaming going on, and they're made to feel inadequate and unattractive because they don't look like Kim Kardashian. Or they don't
but then we know that Kim Kardashian has had all kinds of surgery, so therefore
absolutely.
But she's not a real person at all.
And that's another thing. If their images are not being touched up, their bodies are being nipped and tucked because they can afford to do that. And so that's why I'm passionate about helping young people to realize that they are enough as they are. that they can be whoever they want to be, and that they don't. I know society is putting a lot of pressure on them, and a lot of messages are put out there that makes you feel that a young woman's value is strongly based on her appearance. I know that is out there, but I'm trying to teach them that they don't have to condone it. They don't have to believe it. They can be their own person without believing all of that. And it's not about how you look or how you're shaped. It's about looking good in who you are. It's about looking good for yourself, dressing to suit who you are, and not doing it for any other person or trying to look like any other person.
And young people are going through such a difficult time anyway because of the changes in their brain, and they're dealing with all of that. And
their bodies are changing as well.
Their bodies are changing, but their brain's changing too. I think the whole thing is leading to all kinds of concerns and worries, and I bet they can't understand what's going on for themselves as it is without having all these images being thrust at them. Good enough. You need to be that unrealistic shape. You need what you say, that the images are kind of touched up and they're photoshopped and all kinds of things, and it's all about image. I mean, and it's growing and growing. It's so much more than it ever was before.
So it's really so sad. And the sad thing is that it's pushing them into depression. It's pushing young people into all this pressure, pushing young people into depression, self-harming, eating disorders, and in some extreme cases, even suicide. Studies from the National Society of National Citizen Service in UK showed that young people were more concerned about their appearance than their health. In fact, 34% of boys surveyed said that they felt pressured to look muscular, and 55% of girls surveyed felt pressured to look skinny. And this is pushing young girls as young as 14 years to self-harm. In fact, shocking estimates from the Children's Society show that in the 12-year period within 2015, that 109,000 14-year-olds may have self-harmed. 76,000 of them were girls and 33,000 of them were boys. So it's such a sad situation.
It is a very sad situation. I totally agree with you. And I recently, I had an 18-year-old and she tried to end her life, which was very sad. Apart from that pressure for body image, what else that they're taking on? What else are you noticing with young people that you're working with? What are the other worries and concerns for them?
I suppose it's academic concern, academic pressure, peer pressure, family pressure, and like I said, they're going through a period when they're developing into adults. Their bodies are changing. They're going through what I call adolescenthood, and like you said, their brains are changing, their bodies are changing, and that's confusing enough for them without everything else being added onto it. And that's the time that they tend to also have issues. That's the time that special bond between them and their parents seem to develop cracks, because they are now trying to become their own person. And that's the sort of problem I encounter with them. They're trying to become their own person, and they feel that they're not understood, and they tend to keep things to themselves, they bottle things up, or they confide sometimes in friends that give them the wrong advice rather than their parents or an adult that they can trust.
And I think sometimes there is that. I can remember it for myself, but even with my girl, there comes a point where you get to that age where you don't want to share everything with your parents. No. And there is something about the rebellion about being told what to do. Feeling that rebellious. There's a lot of that. Well, no, I'm not going to share everything. I don't want them completely in my lives, which is a normal way.
Which is normal, yes.
Because that is part of how young people detach from their family of origin, their whole family. They need that within them, but it creates so many stresses and strains.
It does.
Parents can't understand what's going on for them. And certainly the teenagers don't know what's going on because they really don't understand what's happening to them. I mean, seeing parents who are really frustrated because their teenagers are acting out, which is what they do. They feel, well, what's going on? They should be adhering to what we're saying, what we should be, but then the teenagers become more independent. They want their independence. Yes. Yeah, it's a real struggle, isn't it?
It's about finding that balance. Yes, it's difficult, but it's about having that boundary, that becoming adults and becoming their own person, but also getting them to know that they can trust you and confide in you if they're being bullied, particularly, and if they're going through difficult times. And that's.
Do you think sometimes that life's got so fast and so busy that everybody's lives is filled with stuff that there isn't that time? They're not setting that time aside to listen to each other.
I think, yeah, absolutely. There's so much to do. As the average person is inundated with so much to do, and it makes it really difficult to find the time. But it's not impossible. It's not impossible if you are organized and disciplined to find that time to connect with your loved ones. It's all about educating the teenagers because the teenagers actually have the time. Half the time they're complaining that they're bored. And boredom means that they don't have enough to do. Because if you're busy...
And I've got a very different view on boredom. I think that we all need to feel bored because that's how we create things. That's how our minds create, and using our imagination.
I think
filling our lives constantly with stuff is not good.
That works for some people, but it doesn't work for everyone. I've noticed with teenagers that once they start telling you they're bored, and they just sort of become miserable and they moan about being bored. And some of them will actually go and find creative ways of entertaining themselves. Others will not. And they'd rather just sit down and tell you they're bored because they don't have their game console to play or their phones to chat with friends. And it's all about...
It's like balance, isn't it?
Yes, it's all about creating that balance of trying to do more with them, within the boundary that they will allow you, because it's very tricky with teenagers.
Definitely.
It's finding out what they really love and how you can meet them halfway, and doing more, trying to get closer to them. It's more like sneakily trying to get closer to them, because you can't. Everything with teenagers is you have to be very careful. You can't, if you praise them too much, they get suspicious. You want to get too close, they back off. So it's all about doing it little by little.
Yeah.
And using a bit of bribery here and, here and again. So it's all about finding that balance. But it can be done. It's difficult, but it can be done. And I definitely wish that when I was that age that I had somebody who tried to talk to me and tried to tell me that everything would be all right and that I didn't have to listen to all the things that were said to me and that I looked all right as I was. I wished I couldn't talk to my parents about it, although I had loving parents, but I wished I had an adult, like a coach, who could have spoken to me. I would have felt a lot better.
Do you think you would have taken that information from somebody outside of your family?
I would have taken, if somebody else would have sat me down and told me, look, you don't have to believe all these nasty things people are saying about you. You are beautiful as you are. You are intelligent. They're jealous because of who you are. I would have believed it. I would have felt better for myself. And that's why I'm trying to help young women, to realize
the reason I'm asking the question is because I wonder whether you feel that youngsters would take that information more readily from outside rather than their family, because they're going to say, for example, oh, well, of course you're going to say that because I'm your daughter, I'm your son.
Mm.
That's why I was interested. Do you think there is a case for talking to somebody differently?
I think sometimes it does. So it helps to
Yeah.
talk to a coach or a mentor or a counselor, because I find that it's easier to listen to somebody else,
Right.
somebody who is not out to take advantage of you, somebody who has your best interest at heart and is telling you the right things for you. I think that is good for teenagers,
Yeah.
finding an adult that they can trust.
Yeah, I think trust is a really big thing, isn't
Yes.
it? Definitely, because if you get the wrong person, then
Mm-hmm.
nothing will go in at all. You'll be distrusted and
This isn't about
leave it.
praising the person or telling you you're great, you're fantastic,
Mm,
you're brilliant, you're gorgeous. That's not what it's about. It's about
mm.
helping them to believe that there's a lot more to them, and helping them to believe that their value is not measured based on the number of likes they have on Facebook or Instagram, or how influential they are on YouTube, or how many followings they have. Because that's what the problem really is with a lot of these young people. It's getting them to believe that there's a lot more to life than that.
Yeah, and I guess there's a lot of peer pressure, isn't there? Because
Yes.
however much we as adults try and help and support them, they're going to be comparing themselves to their peers.
Yes.
If their peers
Yes.
saying, well, I've got, 100 more likes than you, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, I think that there's a kind of, that's hard for them, isn't it? Because, they're around their peers all the time.
Yes.
Another thing I was thinking about is, I guess when you were at school, at least you could have get away from it because you weren't
Yes.
constant in your bedroom or in your or on your home. They would follow you there. But nowadays, youngsters
nowadays with online
don't, do
bullying,
they?
online bullying and
Yeah.
cyberbullying, it follows you right into your home. It follows you right into your private space, which is really sad. It makes things a lot more difficult for young people these days, because back in my time, we didn't have any of that. That technology wasn't there. We didn't have phones. And like you said, there were no apps and there was no internet. And
No,
so you just got
exactly.
bullied, and then you went home and you had a bit of peace.
Yeah,
And then you wake
exactly.
up dreading going to school the next day.
At least you got some respite, whereas I don't think
Yes.
youngsters do they? And because they're attached to their phones so much,
Yes.
they're not allowing themselves that break, are
Absolutely.
they? It's in your face 24/7.
It is, sadly. And it's really sad. If they would talk to somebody they trust, if they can talk to their mothers and fathers, particularly if they're being bullied, it's so important not to bottle things up.
Yeah. So what is can the listeners take away for, one tip or one suggestion that they could put into action that they could take away with them? What would you say?
Yeah, what I always say to people is, don't judge yourself too harshly. We tend to judge ourselves way too harshly. When you set goals for yourself or tasks for yourself and you don't achieve it, to go through all this name calling phase, and you conclude that you're a failure. But it's not the case. It's not the case. Just because you're struggling doesn't mean, and you're finding stuff hard, doesn't mean that you're a failure. And I also say, try to look at things through the eyes of people you love, your parents, your siblings, people you trust, your coach and mentors if you have them, because you're much more likely to get the facts from them than just acting on your own emotions. Because when you're in that state, you're just all over the place, you're emotional, you're not really looking at the facts, you're not basing all your thoughts on facts. And all that self-doubt, can lead to extreme thinking and bring on distortions that are not true. And so when things get really hard, pause for a moment and look at the facts. If necessary, talk to somebody else to help you to see the bigger picture.
That's great. That's great advice. I'm going to put all your details in the show notes. The easiest way of people getting hold of you, a simple way of getting hold of you, if they're just listening.
StellaMaher.com.
Brilliant.
If you go there, you can also find information about me. and what I do.
Yeah, they can learn more about you. I think that's great. So thank you so much, Stella. It's been a really interesting conversation. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you'd like to know more about me, go to my website, wendykatewell.co.uk, where you can find out about my services and how to contact me. Until next time, bye!